Good evening, Blue Jay fans and baseball fans as well. I am the duly appointed Shadow General Manager of the Toronto Blue Jays, the Feckless Wonder, Steve Fek. Welcome to another edition of the On Fek Circle brought to you by JasonTheCouch.com. We're also sponsored by BetStamp. And we basically should let you know that BetStamp, if you're into sports betting, BetStamp offers a lot of interesting little twists and turns that most of the gaming apps do not. Obviously, most gaming apps are trying to just push what's on their site for their book. BetStamp kind of brings all of these things together and allows you to kind of see where can you get the best odds. What are the best parlay options, for example, across multiple sports books. So you can do line shopping that way. You can also verify and track the bets that you place, and you can even find bettors. BetStamp likes to refer them to as winning bettors, but maybe you've noticed somebody on there that has hit some long shots, kind of thinks along the same way you do. You can follow them as well and see how they're betting. So make sure you download the BetStamp app either on the App Store or Google Play. Use the code JFTC so they know that you heard about it from JasonTheCouch.com and start winning today. Bet like a pro. Win like a pro. Winning like a pro is even more important than betting like a pro. I mean, I know how to bet. I don't win very often, but BetStamp is going to help me. BetStamp's going to help improve my results by giving all these different tools out there. So again, it's on the Apple App Store, Google Play. Use the code JFTC. We got some interesting topics tonight. We'll get to them in just a second. I do want to throw out one ceremonial first pitch, and that involves the Jays from the Couch versus ALS campaign to help us raise awareness and raise money in the fight against ALS. In baseball circles, I mean, even if you only knew Lou Gehrig, from the disease, that a Hall of Fame baseball player uh, died and suffered a premature end to his career through that. There have been multiple people across multiple teams and in the media that have been publicizing their fight against ALS. What we're trying to do is help ALS Canada not only fund research, and there's been so many promising breakthroughs from a medication standpoint and ways to help patients live longer and manage more comfortably the uh, the devastating symptoms of ALS. If you have never had anyone in your life afflicted with ALS, do consider yourself blessed. It is tough on the family, and I can only imagine what the patients go through. I mean, it is a death sentence when they say you've got ALS. You can improve your quality of life and kind of extend it a bit, but you're not dodging the reaper for all that long. That's the great thing about us partnering with ALS Canada. They're funding research, they're funding projects and testing of medications, but probably even more important than that, they can help families and patients with practical day-to-day things. They can help provide wheelchairs. They can help provide transportation to and from appointments or rehab or whatever that it might be going on there. So please do go to jasonthecouch.com. There's two ways you can make a tax-deductible, secure donation. And let me emphasize, it is a secure donation. It's not just some random thing out there in the universe. You can go directly into a secure server. You can make a donation direct to ALS Canada from the Jason the Couch website, or you can go to jasonthecouch.com. You can scroll down and you can check out our Redbubble shop. So not only do you get cool swag, like you can get shirts like the ones I have for Jason the Couch Radio. My backdrop here behind me is the logo for the On Fek Circle. Sunny Side of the Dome has its own stuff. There's all kind of really cool stuff with Jays from the Couch logos and and show decorations, if you will, that are out there, 100% of the profits go directly to ALS Canada, and that's the key. We cover our cost of merchandise only. Everything else is going directly to this JFTC versus ALS campaign. You're going to hear us talk about it, on the podcast. Karen will mention it. I am going to just beat you with the stick until you make your donation, to the JFTC versus ALS campaign. I think it's really, really important that people realize that shows like this, entertainments like this, we're not going to charge you a fee. Well, first of all, who's going to pay to listen to me talk? Number one. But more importantly, number two, we provide this not only because it's fun, but I mean, we want to provide this service to our fellow Blue Jay fans. Fellow Blue Jay fans, as a way to say thank you to us here at Jays from the Couch, can make a donation, and it doesn't have to be a sizable donation. Whatever you can afford. Okay, maybe make a pledge. This month, okay, I'm not going to go to Tim Hortons for some kind of fancy donut or coffee, and put that money aside at the end of the month. Make that your tax deductible donation to the JFTC versus ALS Canada campaign. So we hope you do consider that. Also, want to direct you to our Facebook group, Blue Jays Talk for All. There are several Jays from the Couchers out there moderating. Ryan Muller, I know, makes regular visits there. He is the minor league guru for Jays from the Couch. Our senior editor, Sean Doyle, created the group. I am there. Karen Suter from Sunny Side of the Dome is there. It's just fun talk. We don't need to get into debates. We don't need to argue. We don't need to question someone's parentage if you don't agree with what their viewpoint is. It's just a fun place. Maybe you do have to vent. Don't vent at people, but vent. Just say, look, this is so frustrating. Why can't the Blue Jays find another left-handed reliever? Or why are we talking about having infielders be the backup outfielders rather than have gone out and signed more out? There's any topic, nothing's really off limits. And we do talk topics across Major League Baseball. So go to Facebook, go to the Blue Jays Talk for All group, join in the conversation and join with us, stay with us all season long. You can also follow the Jays from the Couch Fantasy Baseball League on Facebook. So we have a nice stamp out there, if you will, out there in social media. You can follow at Jays from Couch on Twitter. My new handle is Fekball Steve. I can't believe that somebody actually picked Fekball and I couldn't get that one. But Fekball Steve, there'll be some projects I'll be working on, independently. Karen Suter is at Karen Suter 1. We love the conversations. And certainly if you're watching live now, if you've got a question, you've got a comment, you want to call me a dope, whatever it is, whatever's on your mind during this live podcast, please do leave your comments either in Facebook, on Twitter, or especially on the Jays from the Couch YouTube channel. Okay. It's time for a feckless wonder. And this one may upset some people. I know it upsets me to even think about this as a possibility, but I wonder if it's time now to move Kevin Biggio. And his dad played at Seton Hall. It's a Jersey university that I still follow as far as their baseball program. He was an all-star at multiple positions. He's a Hall of Famer. Kevin grew up in Houston, and if you hadn't heard, Jose Altuve has had surgery on a fractured thumb, or was about to have surgery on a fractured thumb. He's out minimum 6 weeks, but he's probably out a good solid 8 to 10 weeks before he's back, being able to handle a bat, play regular, get regular plate appearances, go out on the field there. So I immediately thought, I mean, the minute that I saw Altuve get hurt in real time, I immediately thought, this is the time to end Kevin Biggio's suffering. Last night on the Jason from the Couch radio podcast, we talked about whether or not the front office has grossly mismanaged his talent and his development, especially to fill holes like the third base experiment, playing him at first, playing him in the outfield. I mean, have they really derailed Kevin Biggio's trajectory to being an all-star player in his own right, like the young guys that came up, with him, like Vladdy Guerrero, like Bo Bichette? It's for me, if there was a criminal court in baseball, I know there's kangaroo courts. If there was a criminal court in baseball, Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro would be facing charges for what they've done to Kevin Biggio's career. Now, let me say that as a caveat, I understand that front office personnel need to utilize the talent they have to best put their team in a position to win. So the fact that they've asked Kevin Biggio, whose baseball acumen and field vision, his base running instincts, the way he can handle a bat, working at bat to get on base, it's an all-star level. It just hasn't translated on the field because I think that they're asking him to do things that he's just not as comfortable as he may say that he is. There is talk that he's going to get considerable time in right field when Springer would have to move over to center if Kiermaier is either resting or, God forbid, it gets hurt again. That's great, but he's a Gold Glove caliber second baseman. Yes, if there's a position of depth anywhere in the Blue Jay system, it's up the middle. It's in the middle infield. They pretty much kind of took care of their catching depth by trading Gabriel Moreno. So I don't want to say that that is their position of strength. But there are people that can fill in at second base. Santiago Espinal, they acquired Whit Merrifield. There are other, Otto Lopez can play all over the infield. So I mean, there are a lot of solutions. But the thing is, there really shouldn't have been a problem to find solutions for. You should have just kept Kevin Biggio at second base. So now, for the general baseball fan, they're thinking Kevin Biggio. Well, he's a utility player, and he's not. He's an all-star caliber second baseman. He does a nice job in the outfield. I've been very impressed with how quickly he's picked up playing first base, where he will spill Vladimir Guerrero from time to time. That is valuable. The Blue Jays, have pieces that can do what they're asking Kevin Biggio to do. So if you're not going to make the most of their talent, this isn't the warm and fuzzy days of the 2019 and 2020 Blue Jays. Isn't it great? Our young core is there. Maybe some of you already have this shirt or remember the shirt. The future of Canadian baseball is now. And you've got who's up there top? Number 8, Kevin Biggio, along with Bo Bichette and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Pardon the blurs popping up on the screen there. I couldn't get my green screen set up properly, so I had to kind of adjust things at the last minute. But back to the topic at hand. Okay, that was something that I held near and dear pretty much up until last year. And I really thought that when John Schneider took over, he was going to find a way to maximize what Kevin Biggio can bring to a team. By his own admission, in a conversation that's been documented between Biggio and Schneider, he admitted that he did not play him as much. But he also added a thing. Well, we're trying to win games. To me, if a manager's telling me, well, we're trying to win games, that's why you're not playing, that has to work on your head at some particular way. I don't care how mature or what a team guy you are, that has to work on you. So if that's the approach, both in the front office and then the dugout, that Kevin Biggio is just going to be a utility player, let's end his suffering. Okay, they shoot horses, don't they? I don't want to shoot him, but I think it's time to step aside and capitalize on what Kevin Biggio can bring to a situation like the Astros are facing right now, with Altuve being out at least 2 months. What the Astros don't have is a leadoff hitter that can take and do most of the things that Jose Altuve can do. And quite honestly, I think Kevin Biggio is a better second baseman than Jose Altuve. And that's saying a lot. Jose Altuve is a hell of a second baseman. So there is a ripe situation to move Kevin Biggio to his hometown, Houston, and reap the benefits of of a team that, no matter how they want to be all cheery about it, I mean, they're in desperate straits now. They already are not going to have Michael Brantley on the opening day roster. He's going to start the year on the IL. He has not had any at bats in games in spring training. Same thing for Yordan Alvarez. His hand is not healing the way that they had hoped. So he's probably going to start the year on the IL. And now Altuve's not there. There's a lot of good young players, in the Astros organization. But bottom line is, the Astros can't just kind of snicker and kind of go into cruise control if they really want to win the AL West. The Seattle Mariners are good. I'll propose to you, and a lot of you will probably disagree. And if you do, please do post your comments here live or after the fact. We do go back and answer any comments on YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter. I will contend that the Seattle Mariners are a better team than the Toronto Blue Jays. They don't have necessarily the star caliber talent as much, but I would say 1 through 26, I think the Seattle Mariners, if they're maybe the equal of the Blue Jays, and personally, I would like the Mariners better going into the playoffs as things are set up, and we're going to talk about that in just a second, than I do the Blue Jays going into the postseason. The Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim or Long Beach or wherever they're going to be in the next couple of years, they are better than you think. Last year, I kind of like drank the Kool-Aid and said, hey, the Angels can win the AL West. They didn't quite have enough pitching. And some of the young players really kind of clicked in the second half. But the Angels are much better. If you've got Mike Trout and you have Shohei Ohtani, that's a pretty good start to your team, and anything else you can build around it, that's gravy. So the Astros can't just kick back and go into cruise control until Altuve comes back, till Brantley comes back, till Alvarez comes back. Kevin Biggio solves their solution not only at second base short term, it adds to their outfield depth. If you're going to say Kevin Biggio is going to get outfield reps, fine. When Altuve gets back, you can put Kevin Biggio in the outfield. You can let him play first base. He could very well be a starting first baseman for Houston. I'm not sure that he's better from a power perspective than what they have on the roster, but there's a lot of options there with Kevin Biggio. So it breaks my heart. It does break my heart to even utter the words, it's time to trade Kevin Biggio. But you can get the return you can get is just tremendous. And it's not just in Houston. I mean, Paul DeYoung in St. Louis, he's going to be on the IL, and he may be out for a little while. Okay, the Braves decided to send Vaughn Grissom and Brandon Shoemake to AAA to start the year. They're going to need some depth. So this is the time, if you're going to trade someone, Kevin Biggio is going to bring you the most back. And the name that I would say, if this name comes up in conversations, And that's Forrest Whitley, who used to be a top prospect. He's now the number 10 prospect. He's had some injury things. If you can obtain Forrest Whitley for Kevin Biggio, you do it. You do it because Forrest Whitley's ceiling and what he can contribute to this team in the long run, he's only 25, will be more valuable. And Mark Ryan, the only player from the Astros the Jays should be interested in should be Myers. It'll be tough to pry him away with just Biggio. Interesting point. Very, very good point. How desperate are the Astros, though, I will contend, to do that? The Astros have as much, and also Maris is chiming in, White Sox always seem to need a second baseman. I forgot who they plugged in there this season. I don't think that's been settled yet. Josh Harrison has moved on from the White Sox, and he's now with the Phillies. Josh Harrison is a utility guy. Kevin Biggio is not. The Astros have as much major league ready pitchers and pitching depth in their system than anyone outside of the Rays and maybe the Padres and Indians and Guardians. So you strike. The Blue Jays do not have major league ready arms. They just do not. Ricky Tiedemann, he can be pitching this year. Well, he could, but he's not. I mean, if you're going to be serious about making a World Series run, and this is why I'm talking about this in this context, talking about being a World Series run, you need to think about moving a valuable asset like Kevin Biggio to make your team better, not only for this season, but potentially next season and a season down the road after that. It's a tough conversation to have. And then I know there's a lot of people that say, well, we can't trade Kevin Biggio. He's part of the core. Well, if he's part of the core, then why is he not playing the role that he was developed to play? And, Mark Ryan, Dulce Maris, thank you both for your comments. It's hard for me because, I will admit that Kevin Biggio, I have a blind spot to what he cannot do. But in this situation, Kevin Biggio is the best option for multiple teams, but specifically the Astros. And I keep harping on the Astros because who did the Blue Jays just sign to be, in essence, really be their general manager, though Ross will keep the title? It's James Click. He's the guy that, even through all, losing of draft picks and a lot of the punishments that the Astros went through for the trash can banging scandal, he knows that system. So it might even be a name that maybe it's not Forrest Whitley. Maybe it's someone that is the next Eric Swanson. Okay, there's somebody in that system that can step in and play a vital role. So you take advantage. You don't sit back and let them come to you. You go to them. You are a pest. You call them every day. Say, well, hey, how's it going? How you progressing on that? Hey, I see Jerickson Profar just signed in Colorado, so I guess he can't be part of your conversation. And, well, Luis Rengifo of the Angels, yeah, he's out of options. So do you really want to trade something valuable for a guy that's out of options? So the Blue Jays are sitting there, they're drawing, to a royal flush. They're drawing on the inside here. They need to do that. Will they do that? I'm hoping with James Click now in the mix there in the front office. I'm hoping, just like Ben Sherrington, I think did. I'm hoping it's going to make a difference, but I'm not 100% sure that that's going to happen. Now, the main topic I wanted to do here was I was going to put on my shadow GM hat, and I'm still going to do that here. I'm not going to talk as long about it. There was some great comments, and I think the more I thought about Cabin Biggio and the injustice, sometimes you just have to step aside and reward a guy for doing what you asked him to do at the sacrifice of his career. That's why he's not getting the big arbitration dollars. Okay, he's had to make sacrifices. You reward him by giving him a clear opportunity, and what better opportunity than to go back to Houston? Now, the main thrust of this show was to be me being the shadow GM and telling you what I would do starting this week, because you're going to start seeing players being released, being DFA'd as teams finalize their rosters going into opening day on March 30th. It's fine to have signed all these guys in the offseason. That's great. I mean, the Dalton Varsho trade, I'm still shocked that the Blue Jays were able to do that. I think Shapiro's relationship with Mike Hazen in Arizona had a lot to do with that acquisition. So there have been additions, but the problem is not everybody stays healthy through an entire season. Eventually, somebody's going to have an off year or somebody's going to stumble. And other additions to this roster, yes, I'm talking about you, Brandon Belt, are going to come back and haunt the Blue Jays. So in season, these are the moves that I'm going to concentrate. And literally, if I had a voice, if I would be doing this and I would be instructing my scout, I'd be instructing my assistant GMs and player development people. I would be saying, this is what we need to do. First thing is keep adding to the relief depth. Is our bullpen better? Yes. The Blue Jays bullpen by far is better. Probably the best since maybe 2015, 2016, maybe. I'd say 2015. I mean, I think that's how long it's been since the Blue Jays have had a good bullpen. Not saying that Jordan Romano is not a great closer, but as far as an entire bullpen, it's been a long, long time. So I would, again, start now, and I would say, I don't care. I want full reports on everybody that's just been released. And major league teams have little files pretty much on every player on every roster, but I want in-depth analysis. I want you to tell me, what can this guy do, especially with left-handed relievers. I mean, it's great that the Astros aren't going to have a left-handed reliever. They just sent Matt Gage to AAA to start the season. I mean, there's 2 injuries that basically mean they're going to have an all right-handed bullpen. They did that throughout the playoffs and in the World Series, and that didn't seem to stop them. I mean, their right-handed relievers, their top 6 most used relievers all allow a batting average under 205 to left-handed hitters, and they're all right-handed. When you're in that situation, you can get away with it. The Blue Jays aren't in that situation. So the Blue Jays need to, every possible reliever they can, they need to sign them, whether it be a minor league deal, whether it's some kind of, trade, waiver claim, whatever it is, you need to bring them in. And if that means somehow you risk a borderline prospect off your 40-man roster by exposing him to make room for these guys, if you're serious about being a World Series contender, you need to have depth, not only at the major league bullpen, but also at the minor league level that can step in and be able to contribute. So that's the first thing that I'm going to be doing all season. If somehow, as the shadow GM, and Russ Atkins gets fired and they ask me to take over, that's what the shadow GM is going to do. I'm also going to be pursuing an outfielder. I'm not comfortable, given the injury histories of George Springer and Kevin Kiermaier. I am not comfortable with the outfield mix that we have. Do we have any outfielders at AAA or even AA that could step in and fill a role? No, the Jays do not. So again, from day one, I'm calling Minnesota and I'm asking, look, I know, Max Kepler has underproduced. I know that from a payroll standpoint, he's one of your more expensive players. This is putting a strain because you just signed Carlos Correa. How about it, Max Kepler? Is he going to be an all-star again? No. But he does have a 36 homer season on his resume. In limited at bats, he had 9 homers, 43 RBIs last year. He too had some injury issues, but he's a good corner outfielder. So let's say it's Kiermaier that's hurt. Springer can move back to center. Or if Springer's hurt, Kepler can play right. He's got a good throwing arm. And I'm also calling San Francisco and saying, hey, what about Mike Yastrzemski? He's controllable. I understand that. So really, you're not going to have to pay as much money for that there out there in the Bay Area. But you're willing to pay Carlos Correa a god awful amount of money to sign there. You were going after Aaron Judge. You're obviously going to have to do some retooling. Mike Yastrzemski is 30 years old. So you have all that control, but do you really need that control for a 30-year-old outfielder? Mike Yastrzemski is a great defensive outfielder. He covers a lot of ground out there in San Francisco. He has good bat control. He's had some strikeout issues the last year and a half or so. But you put him in a platoon role. Maybe he's your platoon DH. And I'm going to get to the DH spot here in just a second. Then you definitely have some options. DH, Brandon Belt is not an everyday major league player anymore. And I really like Brandon Belt. I like what he brought to that Giants lineup. He simply, defensively, he has slipped. Injuries are an issue. That wanky knee is not going to feel much better playing on the turf on a regular basis. All the optimistic thoughts about Brandon Belt. Oh, but he could be closer to what he once was as opposed to being what he was last year. No, Brandon Belt's career as a regular player, regular contributor is over. Now, the Blue Jays, because they paid him $9.3 billion, are going to run him out there a bunch, and they're going to say all the right things. But ultimately, again, if you're serious about making a World Series run, come June, come July, like again, you could bring Barger up and give him regular at bats at DH. So that could be a solution. Do you want to count on a rookie with limited at bats in a World Series lineup? I don't know that you want to do that. Doesn't mean you can't give him at bats come June or July. But the Brandon Belt mistake is going to have to be atoned for eventually. And there's guys out there that I can see stepping in. CJ Cron of Colorado. Okay. Keston Hiura of the Brewers. I don't want Keston Hiura anywhere near second base unless he's rounding second, going to third on a base hit into the gap. In fact, I wouldn't even let him have a glove. I would say, look, Keston, this is great, but you can't even have a glove. The only thing I want to see in your hand is a bat and a batting helmet. That's it. Is he streaky? Yes, he is. When he's on fire, he can carry a team. And he's out of options. So the Brewers can't send him down if he struggles again at some point this year. You go to the Brewers, you get Keston Hiura. That's a kind of a bat at the DH slot. Perhaps you get a combination of Yastrzemski and Hiura, or whatever you want to do at the DH. That's what I'm doing here as the Shadow GM. And we'll talk more about it as the season goes on. I'm a bit over my time frame, but I can't help myself. I get so worked up. And the Kevin Biggio story, the more I think about it, the more excited and the more sad I get about it. But we'll be back again next week with the 3rd annual Fek U projections. So you'll be able to see how the Blue Jays match up, going through my little shredder, or whatever you want to call it, my little mad science experiment about baseball. We'll be able to see where the Blue Jays match up against the top 10 World Series contenders. And we'll use those ads coming off of BetStamp, one of our sponsors here at Chase from the Couch. I'm the feckless wonder, Steve Fek, your shadow general manager. I will not rest until Ross Atkins is gone and the Blue Jays are on the right path. I think James Click would be a wonderful replacement, but I will not rest until we are in the World Series. I'll do everything I can to get the word out there that we need to make some changes. Make sure you tune in to Sunny Side of the Dome next Thursday, and our Jason from the Couch radio podcast with our senior editor, Sean Doyle, comes up on Mondays at 6.